I'm here today to talk to you about how, without embracing permanent beta, 21st century feminism might just be an unfinished business. Good morning. I'm Pawena, student here at SPJain School of Global Management. And I would like to share a personal short story that actually begins far before my experience at SPJain in Singapore. I was always a good girl. Good grades, didn't go into trouble, and did mostly well throughout life. I was such a good girl that I picked my high school majors based on what my family wanted me to pick. But one conversation with my little brother brought along with it an epiphany. Because I was getting mad at our parents for not letting me pick the liberal arts in college. If you really wanted to pursue the liberal arts, why didn't you? Said my little brother irritatingly while I was disturbing him during his Ben 10 show on Cartoon Network. But that was true. If I really wanted to do it, why didn't I? That level of defiance was never instilled in me. That ability to simply say no and to take an actionable opinion never came naturally to me. And mind you, my brother and I were both brought up equally in very much a modern household. Yet somehow, just somehow, I felt different about facing the world. I was too young then to understand the whole concept of permanent beta. That when a result ended in less than perfect expectation, it would be a tremendous disaster. I failed my first driving test, and my second one too. At 11, I still didn't know how to swim. And mind you, I come from an island right in the middle of the Indian Ocean. Imagine how much potential I actually could use to actually swim. But these occurrences were such disasters that instead of trying again, I stayed fixated on the fact that I had failed. I always celebrated my A grades. And my less than A grades, I would hide them. Because I wanted to save myself from the embarrassment of acknowledging that somebody else was better than I was. But deep down, it did make me realize that I could improve. That journey from standing in front of you today and articulating these very failures did not happen overnight. But that journey surely took something in me that will in turn take your breaths away. The sole ingredient for me as a young professional woman was, quite frankly, growing a pair. Now, don't get me wrong. All I'm saying is that both men and women have to be aware of themselves, more aware than they already are. And that is the very foundation of permanent beta that really strikes the beginning of it, awareness. Let me put things a little bit into perspective. Let's go to Dubai, where most of our crowd over here has studied during our second leg of our SPJain experience. When the corporate finance course got harder then, some reactions, mostly from my girlfriends, were likely to sound like, you see, I knew I wasn't good enough. That's internal attribution, a reflection of the lack of deeper qualities. And this can be debilitating. Other reactions instead, mostly from my guy friends, sounded like, wow, man, that was a tough class. they recognized the hurdle for what it was. That's external attribution. They clearly saw the lack of efforts instead of qualities. The less aware turned out to be the survivor, the more aware, the conqueror. And what differentiates the conqueror from the survivor is definitely not a matter of competence. Instead, it also is a matter of how confident one can be in that very moment. And that's something that all of us have to recognize, men and women alike. And whoever thought that confidence was being smart or feeling good about yourself clearly confused Adam and Eve with Ken and Barbie. Because confidence, mind you, is simply being okay with failing. After all, the real world does not reward perfect spelling or exquisite manners. What it rewards instead is resilience. Resilience in the face of failures. Failing exactly means putting out work there that isn't perfect. And that's again an essence of permanent beta, to try and grow, hustle, and have an endless quest towards getting better. Because allowing perfectionism to run the show is like being a hamster on wheels. You keep going and going and going, way beyond your original point of goal as well. Why is it that each one of us have to remind ourselves of this? It's because at times, both men and women, when it comes to the time of asking for our own worth, we clip our lips. We are always, at times, less likely to speak up in meetings, ask for pay raises, and negotiate salaries. Why? We don't want to be disliked or seem out of line. We're scared to be judged. Or let's be very blunt, we're scared of being labeled a niche with a B. But if there's someone who can actually break through this entire conspiracy, it's ourselves. Because irrespective of genders, the only antidote to paralysis for everyone is movement. Not everyone can produce the Mona Lisa, but what we can do is at least ship a minimal viable option and get started. If Google can spend 5 years experimenting on Gmail that constituted 0 to almost a negligible percentage of the revenue, you can surely use your entire lifetime investing in something far more important: you. And that's the very foundation of permanent beta, of continuous improvement that we all have to learn to be acutely comfortable with. Today, as I stand in Sydney about to graduate, I am pursuing exactly what I wanted to do. I am doing the liberal arts in the form of marketing. I have my driving license. And as for swimming, let's just say that I'm getting there. Thanks to embracing permanent beta, when I open my eyes in the face of adversity, I do see an evolved girl. And a couple of words from Soli Corral comes to my mind. That girl now lives with a sense of confidence. Like the phoenix, she rises to a new plane of existence. Unfettered by parts of herself that once posed resistance. She lives her life without hesitation. The life is of her own creation. Her senses now heightened. She sees everything so clearly, beckoning her to live her dreams that she held so dearly. The realization at last to live herself fairly, not perfectly, quietly, yet firmly. The anchoring point, of course, in this being permanent beta and accepting that it should be part of her, not part of the gender stereotype that she herself was placing on her, or society for that matter. Essentially, being a really good ambassador of permanent beta shouldn't be encaged within the gender roles that we associate with ourselves. Because while 20th century feminism was about the rights, the sameness of rights between both sexes, 21st century feminism instead is about each sex, all of them that exist today, to tap into the potential that they can be and build into the grandest version that they can ever possibly imagine of themselves. If you notice, feminism in itself has undergone permanent beta just in 1 century. Now, suppose if we were all to embrace permanent beta as a lifestyle, could that possibly be the alpha launch of that same unfinished business? I will leave the thought to you. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity for me to share my thoughts about permanent beta from a woman's perspective. I do sincerely hope that you will walk out today with more than what you walked in with. Thank you.